Yixian wonders if he's ever really felt excited. He can't recall a moment when he has, not since the first time they met until now. He thinks that love isn't just about romance between a man and a woman, it comes in many forms. He's planning to get married, and it's something Yumin wants. To him, she feels like a favor to his family. If Yumin finds something too annoying to deal with, he's ready to handle it for her. If she wants him to tell her he loves her, he's willing to say it every day. He figures that living the rest of his life paying back the favor he owes her is the least he can do. In the cafe, the seller tells a customer that his Christmas drink is ready and thanks him. The customer wishes him a Merry Christmas and to enjoy, and the seller thanks him again. Nearby, two ladies are talking. One shows the other an article on her phone about Song Chan and Hong So-jung being in another scandal. They wonder if this is their second scandal and question whether they are definitely dating, with the other lady replying it's possibly true. At another table, Yumin and Yixian are sitting together. Yixian asks if she has decided on the venue. Yumin stays silent, trying to stay calm and remember how difficult things were before. She finally mentions she likes the first venue she saw and asks if Yixian is genuinely okay with marrying her. Yixian feels that okay with doesn't even come close to how he feels. He says he's incredibly lucky and more than okay with marrying her. Yumin comments that his words are too sweet and that she liked him for this but didn't expect it. Yixian tells her she's the only one he loves. Yumin wonders what to do next, smiling as she admits she's tired of being with him. In her mind, she thinks she'll mix sweetness with cruelty, hoping he feels as hurt as she does. When Yixian calls Yumin, she suggests they shouldn't talk about marriage at the moment. She thinks to herself that there isn't much time left. The seller overhears and doesn't want them discussing such personal matters in his cafe. Around them, people notice what's happening. They see Yixian being broken up with on Christmas Eve, and Yumin is doing it with a smile. This makes everyone else feel uncomfortable, like they are experiencing the awkwardness themselves. Yixian asks why she is bringing this up so suddenly. Yumin says they need to be honest with each other. She wonders if it's really worth it for her to stay with him and reminds him of what she said earlier, that things have become dull and uninteresting. She adds that people's hearts want what they want. One of the ladies nearby is shocked by what she hears, while the other thinks it's unbelievable. At the same time, the seller is questioning his co-worker about why he's pouring a drink away. It turns out the co-worker has lost focus and is not paying attention. Yixian then asks if he hasn't given his best effort during the 6 years they've been together. Yumin says they should end things right now and asks if he understands what she means. 3 months later, two people who are in love are enjoying their time together. One of them asks how the other manages to make such beautiful hearts. She laughs and says it's not a big deal. She walks towards them quickly, making them step aside for her. She thinks to herself that they are such a sweet couple, even though she is talking about herself. The gentleman then tells his partner not to go that way again. She remembers a moment with her ex-boyfriend and thinks it's amazing, feeling envious of people like that, though she's still not quite in the right mood. All the effort she put into her relationship seems to have disappeared in an instant. When she arrives at the office, she announces her presence. Jigi asks why she is so late. She apologizes and explains that she stopped by the sample room and the market. Jigi tells her to put down her bag and take a break because she looks tired. She agrees and leaves her bag before heading to the lounge to lie down. A co-worker comments that she looks really tired and asks if she will be okay. Another co-worker says it's because she's been working too much and mentions that she has been like this for a few months, ever since about 3 months ago. One co-worker wonders if the workload is too heavy for her, while another suggests she should look for work elsewhere. She can hear everything they are saying. She thinks to herself that it's worrying when a representative makes everyone anxious, so she decides to work a bit more. She tells herself to pull it together, realizing it's ironic that she's pushing herself, because of her ex-boyfriend, the same person she broke up with. Still, she reminds herself that this is a company she worked hard to build, so she can't let this situation make her waver. She decides to put thoughts of her ex-boyfriend aside for now. But as she opens her eyes, she feels upset with herself for letting her feelings about him affect her. She sits up, and Ji-hee walks in, asking if she wasn't supposed to be lying down and if she's feeling better. She says she's feeling better and adds that Ji-hee looked surprised when she came in. Ji-hee suggests she have some hot tea and advises her not to overdo it if she doesn't have enough energy. She agrees and says she will keep that in mind. Ji-hee knows that Yumin tends to focus deeply on work after a breakup, but she's worried about her future at work if things keep going like this. Ji-hee wants to make sure Yumin doesn't dwell on her ex-boyfriend. She remembers something and asks if Yumin is free and would like to go somewhere with her in the evening. Yumin, excited, agrees and asks where they are going. Ji-hee then asks if she knows influencer Seo-young, the friend who promotes their bags for free. She tells Yumin that Seo-young is having a party, and they should go to say thanks and have some fun for the first time in a while. Ji-hee tells her to go home and change first, and Yumin says she will go if that's the case. When they arrive at the beach club, Seo-young screams Yumin's name and says she knows they are busy, so she really appreciates them coming. They both wish her a happy birthday and give her their gift. Seo-young tells them to eat and drink as much as they want and says that everyone there is a friend or acquaintance, so they should chat. She adds that she must get back to her duties, so they should go on. Yumin asks if they should grab some food, but Seo-young tells her to wait a moment and apologizes, saying she needs to use the bathroom. She tells Yumin to come back soon and that she will find a seat for them. It's been quite a while since Yumin has been to a party like this, so she's feeling really excited. There are a lot of neo-tubers and SNS influencers here, and she finds the noise and chaos surprisingly pleasant. It's a refreshing change from her usual routine. As she looks around, she spots a guy sitting alone. Curious, she walks over and says hi. She asks if he's a friend of the birthday girl, but he shakes his head and says no. Yumin laughs, thinking maybe he's just a bit shy. She tells him that she's with a friend who is a friend of the birthday girl. He nods and says okay. Then, she asks if he has tried any of the food yet. He replies that he hasn't. Yumin starts to feel like he might be ignoring her because he hasn't made any eye contact. She hopes he'll show her a more interesting side of himself, but then she decides she doesn't really care and won't bother talking to him anymore. When she turns her face towards him again, their faces end up close, and she gets startled, letting out a surprised scream. She tells him that he scared her and asks what's going on. He then asks if they have met before. Yumin thinks about how he didn't bother to look at her before and wonders what has caused this sudden change in his behavior. Yumin tells the guy that it's her first time meeting him. He then asks if she might be a celebrity, like an actor or a singer. She laughs and says she's just a regular person. She starts to wonder what his deal is and hopes he isn't trying to flirt with her. She thinks to herself that if he's using a pickup line, it seems old-fashioned and wonders if people still use lines like that these days. She concludes that even if his flirting isn't great, his batting average might not be too bad. She then notices his phone ringing and points it out to him. She wonders why Song Ji-hee hasn't come back yet. Suddenly, the guy sitting next to her gets up and runs out quickly. Yumin is surprised and wonders where he's going in such a hurry, and if it was an urgent call. She sees his wallet on the floor, which has his ID in it. She decides to chase after him to return his wallet. As she runs, she worries about whether he'll be okay without it. After a while, she feels tired and decides to give up searching. She heads back and thinks she'll leave the wallet with the staff. Just then, she hears a voice asking if someone is crazy and wondering how they found this place. The voice sounds familiar to her. She peeks through and is surprised to see that it's the guy who owns the wallet. She asks herself if that's really him. There's someone standing in front of him, and she says she found out about him through Taekan's social media. Yumin can't hear their conversation, but she thinks it's a woman talking. The guy then tells the woman how many times he has to say that he only helped her because he felt sorry for her, not because he loved her. He says he can't do it anymore because he isn't a volunteer for her. He mentions that he's tired of her behavior, and that she should stop pretending she doesn't understand. He suggests they should go their separate ways. As he turns to leave, she tells him not to act dirty and calls him Hyun-do. She then says that even if things are like this now, she knows he will stay by her side for the rest of their lives. She's also sure he will tell her he loves her again eventually. He replies that maybe that would have been true before, but now he's just tired of pretending to love her. He says he has been acting in a love story that didn't work out, and it's been hard for him. He adds that she's been happy because of him for the past few years and questions if he doesn't deserve some appreciation. In response, she angrily throws his wallet at him. For Yumin, the worst kind of lover is someone who deceives their partner and pretends to love them with lies. She feels the same way about her ex-boyfriend from the past 6 years. She remembers how devastated she felt. She questioned everything she heard from him. It was never exciting, and it never felt like real love between a man and a woman. He only said he loved her and wanted to marry her because she did something good for him. She wonders how that could be considered paying back a favor. In her mind, she decides she'd rather end things like this with him. The wallet she threw hits him on the head, and he turns around. She asks herself if she would have felt more satisfied if she had done it differently. In her thoughts, she says hold on and questions what she just did. In the bathroom, the ladies are chatting. One group says they were okay earlier, while another talks about Seo Young singing later. When Yumin steps out, she looks around and wonders where her friend is. After spotting her, she realizes she wasn't alone in the bathroom. Someone bumps into her, and she turns around to see a guy. He quickly apologizes, saying he didn't see her because he was watching his friend. She tells him it's fine, that it could happen to anyone, but she thinks he's cute. She asks if he is friends with the guy over there, and he says yes. Then she asks if he is single, and he replies that he is. She mentions that her friend is also single, so it's a good match. He tells her to hold on a moment and says that he is also single, which is a good thing for them, and asks if she doesn't think so. She stays quiet, wondering why he said that, if he's flirting with her, and if it's okay since he seems younger than her. People are surprised and wonder what's happening as Hyun-do runs out and Yumin chases after him. Not understanding what's going on, he asks, what, and then confirms that both of them suddenly ran out. He asks who she is, why she is there, and if she followed him. Yumin explains that she didn't follow him directly, but admits that she did follow him because she knows he has a sharp tongue and speaks bluntly. She realizes she shouldn't have lost her temper, and is now in big trouble. He asks if she recorded or filmed anything, and she says no. He then questions why she would do something like that. He also asks why she is hiding after chasing him like a rat. Yumin is taken aback and asks if he just called her a rat. She gets angry and tells him to listen. She explains that it's not her fault and asks if he knows what she threw at him. He looks at the wallet and realizes it's his. Yumin says she's so shocked she can't even speak. She questions why she's being called a rat just for trying to return his wallet. She threw it at him, but she thinks that's not a good reason to be called a rat. He stays silent, takes a deep breath, and looks around, noting that the lady has already disappeared. He observes that she always vanishes quickly in these situations. In his thoughts, he realizes that Yumin doesn't know who he is, even though she wants to move past this. He apologizes, saying he must have misunderstood, and thanks her for returning his wallet. He starts to say more, but she interrupts, saying it's enough and thinking they should just move on. He then comments that the way she returned his wallet is unique and asks if she usually throws things at people's heads when giving them back. She says no and explains that he provoked her first, so she reacted without thinking. She wants to say what's on her mind honestly, but she knows she needs to apologize first. She tells him that she tried to return his wallet quickly, but he looked like he was in a lot of pain. She asks if that's correct and apologizes again. He thinks she doesn't seem very sorry at all. She says she needs to go back to the party, and since she's already apologized, she wants them to leave quickly. He says he's going back too, and she suggests they go together, even though she can't believe she actually said that. Back at the party, the birthday girl thanks everyone for coming and announces that she will sing a song to show her appreciation. Song Ji-hee looks up the location of his store on her phone and sees it's not too far away. He mentions that the store is under renovation right now, so she should visit when it's finished, and he adds that they'll offer her many services. She calls her friend to let her know she's arrived. Her friend asks where she has been and mentions that she didn't answer the phone. She apologizes and decides to get a drink before she talks to her friend. The guy calls his friend, and everyone says quick hellos. He greets Yumin and Ji-hee tells him that his brother was the one with her. Yumin says she wants to get something to eat, and will be back soon. He says, okay, I'll see you later. But Ji-hee tells her to come with her. Yumin asks why, and Ji-hee wonders if something happened between Yumin and the guy. Yumin says she knows what Ji-hee might be thinking, but it wasn't a big deal. She explains that she found the guy because he dropped his wallet and thinks a lot happened on the way. Ji-hee is surprised and asks if that's really all that happened. Yumin confirms and suggests they find something to drink quickly. Meanwhile, the guy is teasing his friend, asking if he went out with Yumin, what they did, and why. He uses the word you, referring to his friend, and asks if he posted on social media about being there with him. He remembers taking a photo with the birthday girl, where Hyun-do was accidentally included. He wants to know if his friend saw the photo, even though he knows Hyun-do doesn't like being in pictures. He's curious how Hyun-do found out if he doesn't use social media. Frustrated, he tells his friend to forget about it and says he's leaving now. His friend asks why he came back if he's just going to leave right away. He explains that the store is closed for a few days because of renovation and suggests they go have a drink with them, saying it's a good chance for them. Ji-hee tastes the drink and says it's really delicious. Yumin takes a sip and agrees that it's totally her favorite. The guy thinks about it for a moment and then says he's not interested and walks away. The driver calls her Sojung and asks how long she's going to keep wearing the wig and cap. He's surprised she's still using them. She says she didn't realize she was still wearing them because she was deep in thought, and then she takes them off. He asks if she had a good talk with the guy. She says yes, but thinks he needs more time. She mentions that he only said mean things to her on purpose. He notices that she doesn't seem to mind hearing that and asks if she really believes what he said. She replies that if someone else had said it, she might believe it, but she knows he wouldn't leave her for something like that. She thinks that he's probably still waiting for her call. He calls her a poor girl and notices that she's really confident. Then he asks what she was thinking so hard about earlier. She remembers when the wallet was thrown at him and wonders who did it. She questions if it could be someone who's trying to bother her. She decides to avoid thinking about it for now and tells herself she'll contact him later. She's curious if it was just an ordinary person, and if she was being followed instead of him. But she figures it's not that important. At home, Hyun-do is drinking and thinking about the call he got at the party. He remembers when she said she was nearby and how he ran outside when she called. She mentioned how cold it was outside and that she would wait until he came. He calls himself a jerk as the beer splashes on the table. He decides that from now on, he won't jump to answer calls right away. He sighs, grabs a wipe to clean up the mess, and thinks that there's no need to run straight out like he did. A new message pops up, and he throws the wipe container aside as he grabs his phone to check it. It's a text from his brother, Lee Taekan, who is laughing. Taekan suggests that he should come over now and warns that he might regret it if he doesn't. Hyun-do thinks his brother is sending confusing texts right now. Taekan sends a photo he took not long ago, saying it was fun. Hyun-do zooms in on the picture to get a clearer look at Yumin's face. He realizes she's the woman who hit him on the back earlier and she looks familiar, just like he thought. He wonders if she's been to their store before but can't quite remember. He decides it doesn't matter whether she looks familiar or not because she's someone he'll probably never see again. However, his prediction will turn out to be completely wrong in just a week. While sitting down, Sojung scrolls through her phone, checking her posts. She says oh and wonders how Hyun-do is doing. She looks at a few updates on the app and thinks there's not much she can do about Hyun-do. She figures it's probably the same as always, he's just exercising and going shopping. She stares at his photo, since it's the only way she can see his face. The guy who drove her last time calls her and asks if he mentioned before that a new stylist is coming. She says he did. She thinks about sending him a text, even though she's likely to be ignored again. He then tells Ha-kyung to say hello and asks if she knows who she is. Ha-kyung greets her and asks her to take good care of her from now on. Ha-kyung replies that it's nice to meet her and they should work well together. The guy suggests they go downstairs together since they have a schedule to follow. Sojung still feels like it's not really happening. Sojung is now working with Hong Sojung and wonders how surprised Yumin will be when she finds out. He reads a message from Yumin. It says that he must have been really busy, moving and remodeling the shop because of her. She asks when he's going to tell her where he moved to. Frustrated, he mutters an annoyed knowing she won't stop contacting him anytime soon. He knows he moved because he was upset with her. He starts typing a reply, telling her that if she has something to say, she should come to his place since she knows where it is. But then he deletes the message. He decides it's not worth sending that reply, especially since he's the one who suggested breaking up. He realizes he had never visited her store because he was afraid of being seen. He wonders if he should just go now. As he crosses the road, he thinks about how hard it is to wait for someone who doesn't contact you, and how you only realize the situation when it happens. He looks at the two animals, calls them cats, and then says they are actually kittens. As an animal lover, he decides to record a video of the kittens. But as he's setting up, one of them screeches at him. Just then, his phone rings. He answers and asks Taekan what's up, saying that if it's not important, he should hang up because he's trying to record a video. He tells Taekan to listen for a moment. He's surprised when Taekan mentions who he's inviting for dinner tonight. At lunch, Yumin is surprised when she hears this. She says, wow, and asks if there is really a dinner tonight. She also questions if Taekan didn't say he was working there. Hyun-do explains that he got permission to host the dinner and mentions that the shop will reopen in 2 days, but he wants to have the dinner before then. Yumin remembers Taekan saying that the guy was the manager last time. She recalls him telling them a week ago that his brother is the manager, and he is just an employee. She feels awkward about seeing that guy again, and really doesn't want to. Hyun-do persuades her, saying it's not far from where they are and the food is good. Knowing she likes good food, he tries to convince her. Yumin declines and tells Hyun-do to go by himself. Yumin agrees to go, but questions if something happened between her and the guy that day, wondering if that's why she doesn't want to go. She says no, but actually, it's true. She also says she shouldn't be told she can't forget her ex-boyfriend, or that she isn't interested in other guys. She replies that's not the case, though it's also true. They arrive at the shop really early. Hyun-do begs them to come in. Yumin looks frustrated to be there, and in her mind, she's telling herself not to be nervous. She notices how nice the shop looks and mentions that it's really impressive. Hyun-do says the remodeling went well. Yumin hands him a bouquet of flowers, saying she didn't come empty-handed and bought them as a gift. Receiving the flowers, he tells Yumin she didn't have to buy them, but they are really pretty. As she stands next to Hyun-do, she thinks about how she never expected to see him again. She hands him a small package, congratulating him. He appreciates the gift and learns that it's red wine. He then tells them to sit wherever they are comfortable, and his brother agrees. He asks his brother to hurry up and bring the drinks, and his brother responds. The shop isn't far from her company, and the neighborhood where her ex-boyfriend lives is also nearby. She wonders if he might pass by and questions what she was expecting. They are told to enjoy their meal. They comment on how lovely it is and start eating. Yumin takes a bite, and says the food is really delicious. After confirming what she said, he explains that he doesn't advertise much, but he has many regulars and thanks word of mouth for that. Yumin thinks she might become a regular at the shop too. Jihee adds that people will talk about a place as long as the food is good. He tells them to eat as much as they want. Yumin is surprised by how delicious the food is and notes that there's no rule saying that skills and character have to match. She thinks she'll keep enjoying the food. Taekan asks if he can post a photo of the gift they received on social media and tag his sister. They both say yes. Yumin then asks if Hyun-do uses social media. She suggests they should follow each other if he does, but he says he doesn't use it because it's not his style. His brother then asks if Hyun-do has a store account since he doesn't use social media. Hyun-do replies that he recently set it up, but wonders if it's even necessary. Yumin mentions that she's been considering deleting her own account too. Hearing that, he says no and asks what's wrong. She tells him that her ex-boyfriend keeps bothering her on social media, and it's really annoying. He suggests she block them all, saying he always does that after a breakup. She wonders why they act like that, pointing out they should have been nice while they were together. He replies that it's actually a good thing if they come to their senses after the breakup. He then adds that someone even spread rumors about him still missing his ex after they broke up, which made him really angry. Oh really, she says, and Yumin comments, almost ironically, that maybe it's just the person's state of mind, they might still like their ex and can't move on. Hyun-do reflects on how some people aren't honest because of their pride. He thinks this might explain Hong So-jung's words and actions. He remembers her and the text she sent, saying she still loves him and plans to come back. He thinks her shameless attitude is just bragging. She seems like the kind of person who can't be honest, even when talking about a breakup. He wonders if she'll ever be able to be honest with him. Meanwhile, Yumin notices his sudden change in mood and gets curious about why he's acting this way. She asks Jihee how long it usually takes for an ex-boyfriend to contact his ex-girlfriend after a breakup. Jihee replies it could be anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. Yumin is surprised by the 3 months, and learns that some people don't reach out at all. Jihee then says that the best way to make him contact her sooner is to show him that she's happy with someone new. Before leaving, Jihee tells them the meal was great. Hyun-do invites them to come back next time, and Jihee says she will return with her friends. His brother then lets them know that their taxi has arrived. Yumin is surprised and points out that she hasn't caught hers yet. Since they are both heading in the same direction, they decide to walk together. Hyun-do walks home since it's close by, while Yumin heads off in a different direction, planning to catch a taxi. She tells them to go ahead, saying she'll grab one soon and adds that she had a nice talk with Taekan. Before leaving, she says she'll go first and promises to text her later. Yumin asks Hyun-do to make sure Taekan is all right, and he nods, replying, "Sure, I'll take care of it." He tells her to take care too as her taxi speeds off. After that, Hyun-do suggests they move to the main road, saying they'll probably have better luck catching a taxi there, and she agrees. Throughout the walk, Yumin can't stop thinking about him. She wonders how he's doing and whether he's noticed her happy with someone else. Even though he got dumped, he never got angry, which makes her think maybe he doesn't care if she's with another guy now. She checks her phone, realizing it's pretty late, but her mind drifts back to him. She glances over at Hyun-do and asks how he's feeling. He says he's okay, but something in his voice makes her question it. She lets out a doubtful "huh," but quickly adds, "It's all right, you don't need to worry too much." Then he asks if he acted up too much when he was drunk. That's when Yumin realizes she couldn't believe her eyes earlier. The surprise is all over her face. "Wait. Is that my ex-boyfriend?" she wonders to herself, almost in shock, as she looks at Hyun-do. 13 years ago, back in high school, a group of students stands together, squinting and trying to get a better look at someone approaching from a distance. One of them asks, "Can you see their face?" Another shakes his head, saying it's still too blurry. He then urges the person to come closer, eager to get a better look. Standing behind them are Yumin and Jihee, watching curiously. Jihee mentions that it looks like a male student has arrived. Yumin, curious, asks, "Who came?" "I want to see too." She wonders why everyone is acting so excited. Around them, people are murmuring, some whispering it's the son of the Korean teacher, others saying he's really good looking. Right in front of her, the new student finally appears. Yumin stares at him, her eyes widening in disbelief. Back to the present, Yumin's heart skips a beat as she wonders if the guy walking toward them is Kim Yizyeon, her ex-boyfriend. Panic sets in. "Oh no," she mutters under her breath, wondering what she should do. She had always imagined running into him, but now that it's happening, she's completely unprepared. Her mind races, searching for a place to hide, but there's nowhere that seems good enough. Well, not exactly nowhere, she figures she can hide in the most ridiculous way possible. Without thinking much, she moves in closer to Hyun-do, using his jacket to cover her face. Hyun-do is caught off guard, his thoughts immediately running wild as he tries to figure out why she's doing this. As they walk closer to the couple ahead, the woman points at them and tells her boss to look over. He glances in their direction, curious. She whispers something about how cute they look together, and with a smile, he agrees. "Yeah, they really do. Let's just walk past them," he says. She nods, still grinning, and they continue walking away. When he questions her actions, Hyun-do nudges her to step back a little. Yumin quickly apologizes, promising to stop in a few minutes, though he still feels like she's too close. Frustrated, she asks him to stay quiet for a moment, feeling overwhelmed and on the verge of getting sick if he doesn't. After passing the couple, the woman casually brings up her boss's love life, which leads to a light conversation. She laughs off his response before he checks on her, making sure she's feeling better, to which she reassures him that she's fine now. The moment they are out of sight, Yumin immediately puts some distance between herself and Hyun-do. He remarks on the situation, and she reflects on how long they've been together. A sinking feeling settles in, and she begins to question how it's even possible for someone to move on so quickly. It's a thought that lingers, disbelief clouding her mind. They stop by a small shop to grab some drinks. Yumin silently wonders if she was too harsh when they broke up, though she reminds herself there was a reason for it. After a moment, she turns to Hyun-do and asks if he also thinks it's unreasonable, how 6 years could just be forgotten so easily. Meanwhile, Hyun-do's mind is elsewhere, already thinking about heading home. He breaks the silence and asks if the reason she hugged him earlier was because she saw her ex. She admits it was, apologizing as she explains that there was nowhere else to hide except by clinging to him. He then asks why she felt the need to hide when she hadn't done anything wrong. She agrees with him, but questions herself, unsure why she hid in the first place. Especially since she had just been imagining what it would be like to run into him. She had asked herself what would happen if he saw her happy with someone else. Now, looking back, she feels like a fool, wondering what the point of all that thinking was. When he actually showed up, instead of standing tall, she was too busy hiding. She didn't even realize it at the time, but her instincts had taken over. If they had met face to face, she knows her lingering feelings for him would have been obvious. Yumin thinks she should have just greeted her ex instead of hiding, and Hyun-do agrees, telling her the same thing. Curious, she asks why he feels that way. He explains that hiding like that might have given the impression she was meeting someone new. She's surprised by his answer, realizing she hadn't even considered that. How did she forget there was a guy standing right next to her? Now she wonders if she'll ever get another chance like that again. Running into him by accident isn't easy, and besides, she doesn't even have anyone to meet at the moment. Hyun-do suggests they head home since he's feeling tired, and says they should quickly clean up and leave. Yumin nods in agreement and apologizes. Glancing at the bottle in front of her, she notices she's had more to drink than she realized. As they walk down the street, Yumin starts to wonder whether Hyun-do is being kind or just indifferent. She remembers how harshly he treated that woman in the alley before and can't help but compare it to how he's acting now. Even though Hyun-do is putting up with her nonsense, she knows she did throw in a slight threat earlier. Still, she can't quite figure him out. She reflects on the moment he told her it would have been better to greet her ex instead of hiding, which could have made it look like she was meeting someone new. Now, she's thinking that all she really needs is a guy by her side to create more chances to run into her ex. She clears her throat and tells him to excuse her for a second, then she asks if he's seeing anyone at the moment, quickly adding that if he's not, she'll treat him to a meal. She suggests they could occasionally meet up around his neighborhood. She's quick to explain that she's not trying to hit on him, but just needs him to pretend they are meeting, since she doesn't have any guy around who she could start something casual with. But then, she admits to herself that even if there was someone like that, it would still be a problem, because she's not in the right headspace to date right now. And honestly, even if there was a guy, she doubts he'd be interested in her anyway. He suddenly exclaims, "Oh," and squats down beside her. Yumin, feeling dizzy, mumbles that her head is spinning. He just stares at her for a moment, then tells her to get up, but she stays silent. Seeing that she's not moving, he tells her to stay like that and leave whenever she feels like it, pretending to walk away. A few moments later, he walks back to her and asks what she plans to do, what she'll do for him in return. She looks up at him, confused, and asks what he wants if it's money. He shakes his head and says he has plenty of money. Instead, he says he wants to use her for something else. 5 years ago, Hyun-do is up early, preparing breakfast. After finishing, he heads to Sojung's room and just stands there, watching her. She calls him her bachelor, and reflects on how diligent he's been all morning. She tells him he shouldn't be doing this kind of thing for other people, and asks if he understands. Smiling, he grabs her hand and playfully bites her fingernail, making her yell, "Hey." He teases her, saying he's going to eat it because he's hungry. She laughs and tells him not to, and he agrees. Then she asks if he made soybean paste stew, commenting on how good it smells from where she is. At the office, Haiji looks at Yumin with concern. Yumin sighs, saying she feels like she's about to die. Haiji asks if she's okay and offers to get her some medicine, pointing out that she didn't even eat lunch. Yumin waves her off, saying it's fine. She blames herself for mixing too many drinks last night, and admits it's her own fault. Haiji curiously asks what exactly she was drinking since she only remembers the four of them having wine the night before. She feels like she's making a mistake. She doesn't want to lie, but being honest feels even more embarrassing. Ji-hee, who is usually calm, and not easily influenced by her emotions, decides to come clean. Just as she's about to, Ji-hee interrupts and asks if they really drank the day before. A co-worker nearby asks if they went drinking with some guys, while another guesses it was a blind date, 2 versus 2. Ji-hee politely reminds them to address her as their boss or manager while at work, thinking it's a good time to set things straight. The co-workers, hearing her, joke that she's saying this out loud, so of course, they are curious. Ji-hee playfully tells them to pretend not to hear anything, even if they did. She receives a text from Hyun-do that says, "If you've got some time, let's meet." About 30 minutes later, she walks out of the office, thinking about the saying, "It's better to act first." She wants to make up for what happened the day before. As she gets closer, she feels a bit anxious because he said he was already there, but she doesn't see him. Then she spots him, sitting in a secluded corner, which puzzles her since there are plenty of empty seats around. He's sitting quietly, his fingers intertwined, and when he hears his name, he looks up. She comments that he's early and asks if he's been waiting long. He tells her he arrived not long ago, which makes her feel relieved. He says he's going to order a drink and asks her to sit down. She acknowledges this and then apologizes, wondering if he thinks she drinks a lot, and leaves without asking. She had an upset stomach and doesn't like coffee. When he comes back with the drink, she thanks him. It's warm tea, and she asks if she can drink it. She then asks if he got home safely the night before, noting he must have been tired since she was very drunk. He sips his tea and recalls how she said something odd, and how he had to persuade her to go home. She confirms she was drunk and said some nonsense, telling him not to take it too seriously. He suggests that they should just do what they talked about before and asks if they should go ahead with it. He mentions that he just needs to pretend when he meets him. She apologizes and agrees, but she's surprised by the sudden shift. She questions if he's being serious and admits that, while she was drunk the previous day, she thought he suited her and was planning to ask him to act like nothing happened. She says there's nothing they can do about the meeting. As he mentioned using Choi Yuna, she corrects him, saying it's actually Choi Yumin. He acknowledges the correction. She then confirms that her answer from yesterday was genuine, but it all feels too sudden for her to process. She decides to explain her plan in more detail since he said he would help. She wants her ex-boyfriend to see her having fun with other men. Her ex lives near Hyun-do's store, so she only needs him to spend time with her 1 day a week. She thinks it's easy stuff like eating out, going to a cafe, and taking walks. She tells him that she'll give him the details about the time and place in advance. Her plan is really just a way to escape reality. She can't admit that she wasn't loved as a partner. Even though she feels a bit satisfied, she hopes her ex will regret it. Hyun-do, on the other hand, doesn't seem very curious about her plan or her situation. He says it's his turn to talk. He explains that he will take a photo every time he meets Yumin, and she corrects him that it's Yumin, not Yujin. He adds that he won't take pictures of her if she doesn't want him to, but he plans to post the photos on his social media. She remembers he said he doesn't use social media, and he tells her he'll set up a new account for this. When she asks if that's all, he says it's enough for him, but she finds it hard to believe. She also asks if he doesn't need to go somewhere with her or do anything special, and he says no. He hopes that her presence will have an effect on Sojung. She thinks it's a simple plan and can only hope it works. She wonders why he started using social media now, especially since he never used it before. She guesses it might be to show off pictures of women to his ex-lover, and she questions if this is connected to the woman he fought with in the alley. She wonders if he's doing this because of his recent breakup, and is curious about his motives. She thinks there might be someone else with a situation like hers, and wonders about the story and the change of heart they experienced. She's curious about what's weighing on his mind. He tells her they'll meet on Sundays when his store is closed, and on other days, only in the evenings. She agrees and says she will plan her schedule around that. When he asks about the deadline for their plan, she thinks it over, realizing she hadn't set a specific end date. She says it will be until they each get the reaction they want from the other, but then adds she's just kidding. She asks if 2 months sounds good, and he says that works for him. As they leave the shop, she suggests they start their plan the following Sunday, and says she'll text him with more details. He agrees. Just as he's about to walk away, she stops him and asks him to wait. She stretches out her hand for a handshake, and tells him she knows she didn't make a great impression. He's glad she knows that, but still, he appreciates her for accepting her offer. She asks him to take care of her for the next 2 months. He thinks her smile is nice and that Sojung should get to know her better. If you're eager for the next chapter, Drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time, ciao.